All right. So good evening, everyone. Welcome um to this class. I'm happy to see you all. Okay. So a little bit on what we've done, right? On Python. So of course, this notebook is not a full complete version. I'm still hoping some of us will have a complete version. But what we did, a bit of what we did in the last class was so we went from discussing tuple list dictionary. We explained their data types, how they work, what differentiates them, and also basically the operations, how you identify a list, a tuple, and a dictionary, how they work, right? Then we went from there to talk about conditionals. Okay, well, yeah, before conditionals, we explain what a keyword is. So a keyword in Python is a word, basically it's a word that is dedicated to a particular thing in Python. It has to do something. So that word has been dedicated, it has been taken, it has been separated out. That, oh, okay, this is the function, this is what you are going to be doing, right? So for instance, like true with a capital T means that it is true. So it has been assigned to something in Python that, oh, okay, anywhere you use this, it has to be true. But if you're using a small letter T, it's not a keyword. So the thing with these keywords is that you cannot use them as a variable name. For instance, I can have none, N-O-N-E, with a capital letter N as a variable name. This won't work, right? Because Python is already seeing it as a keyword already. So there are quite a lot of them. So, but you can you get to know more of them as you proceed. But there are some basics one, like some very simple one that you get to use like almost every time. For instance, if you look at this, can I zoom this? I don't think so. Okay, it's not clear enough. But like false, non, true, and as, break, finally, not, is, in. I'm looking at other words: class, continue, or pass, return, try, while. So these are all keywords that we'll get to use for, yes, for. We get to use on a frequent basis. Let me put it that way. Uh, okay, so I'm trying to reduce my screen. I hope it's still visible. So basically, we did keywords. Then we went to conditionals. That's basically checking for an if else loop. So if something is true, do this. If something is not true, then don't do that thing. Do something else, right? So that was basically what we had treated through, and we discussed. There was one more thing I mentioned. So okay, this is just a simple if else. If result, for instance, results here is where did I declare results? Results here is equals to 60, and so up here, no, something is wrong. Up here, results is greater than 59, so 60 is greater than 59. True. So that's why you're saying congratulations, you have passed. And if it's not greater, then you have this, right? Then we demonstrated a nested if else loop. That's an if else embedded into another else, so that if this is true, do this. If this is not true, then there are still other things that you need to check for, right? So that's the point of nested. But we also explained that there's a way around this. So rather than having an extended version of the if else, you can introduce a new statement called elif that merges else and if. So all it takes is just these two and merge it together, and it puts your line on the code and makes it cleaner. Yeah, it makes it simple and easier to understand, easier to read, right? So that was the point of elif. Although you use this two will work, right? So it just once again defines, proves that you can do one thing in multiple ways. So I think there's still one more. So we did a bit of an example using a score grid, like an exam score, and grade it, grade the exam score based on the user inputs. Already you have some things defined already. Oh, so when you take this input, do this, do that, do that, do that. Check if this number falls in this range. If it does not, check the other one. If it does not, keep checking like until you round up, something like that. Then okay, yeah, so we did one last thing. I think it was checking a number. So no, it was taking input from a number. So to take input from a no, I'm sorry, it was taking input from a user. And to take input from a user, you have to use the keyword input. I explained a bit of that. So this is like best practice. I think we'll get to use more of this. Not really. So input is just to take input from a user. So when you have your input and you have something like this, right? So whatever is in this will just come out as a prompt. And yeah, so that's basically the point of um, inputs. And inputs, by the default state of inputs, is strings. So if you need your inputs from the user to be a number, then you have to convert it to a number. So that's like converting from strings to integer, from integer to strings, right? Yeah. um so I think that's where we stopped last week. And that's like basically what we have done so far. So I don't know if there's any questions. I'd like to take questions. If you have any questions on the previous work that was done, maybe anything is unclear. Okay, if there are no questions, I think we can move on to what we have for today. Okay, so today I plan to introduce a new concept, right? So it's not difficult. It's just something simple. So the so we did conditional statement, and when we're doing conditional statements, we dealt with a conditional statement is a kind of loop, but it's just a single loop, right? So a loop is like something that starts to end, something like that. Sorry. So a loop is something that has a start to end, right? So it goes from up to down. So you iterate. So like if, for instance, taking this example, this for instance now, if exam score is not greater than, if this does not evaluate, this will evaluate, this will evaluate, like it keep evaluating like that, and it stops here. So it starts from here and it stops here. And if any one of them gets to evaluate, it stops there, and that's the end. So it's like it just goes once. Now, we are going to now be dealing with actual loops. So a loop that goes round, right? Loops. Yeah. So so I'm going to try to explain it like I did with conditionals, right? So let's imagine something. There's a particular task we want to do. Okay, for instance, now look at, if you remember from last week, we did something like a grading system. Not like a grading system, like just a grader that takes a score and returns the grade. As simple as that. Now, imagine we want to do this for 1,000 students. Let's imagine it's a very big school, from a secondary school, from maybe JS1 to SS3. We want to grade their first term exams, right? Or let's even take a student for instance. So a student, we need to grade his results. He has about 14 subjects, right? And a whole lot score for it, and we need to grade it. Now imagine if 14 courses for one student. How many would that be for 1,000 students? That's going to be like 14,000 students, 14,000 grades. So if you were to go through this one after the other, that would be stressful. That would be unimaginable, right? So there should be a way where we can go over it, like do this for all the 1,000 or 14,000 students, right? So this is where loop comes in. So the idea is, still taking a student for instance, the idea is I want to grade all its 14 subjects, and I don't want to do it manually. If I do it manually, it could take, of course the grading is already fast enough, so all I need to just put the score, grade it automatically in like 1 second. Let's just say 1 second, so that'll be like 14 seconds to do everything. Whereas I can just have a list of all the scores and let Python go through all the scores and grade it automatically. This is where loops comes in. So it's okay, I have my keyboard now. So it's more of like saying something like Shokpe has a list of scores. That's like 43. I'm just going to add some random things here, right? Sorry, should be um okay. I'm just going to do this and one more. Yeah, so let's say this is the list of scores. So I don't even want to know how many scores I have here. All I can just do is do length of Shokpe and control enter. You can see it comes out. So I think I didn't want to count. I don't want to count what is in Shokpe actually. I just want to do this straight up, right? Now, if I'm now to do this grading system, that if the grader that I did, if I want to do that, I would have to go through it one after the other, right? Now, what if I tell you there's a way to iterate over all of this and just go through it one by one? So to do that, this is where loops comes in. So the first loop I'll be explaining towards this. So we can do this in two ways. There's what we call a for loop, which is what I'll be explaining first. For a loop. Sorry, guys, can you just give me a second? Just come in. Hello, ma. Hello, mo ń gbọ́ yín. Mo wà class. Kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀? Ẹ kí ló ṣẹlẹ̀? Ó di 6 mi lè kúrò. Alright. Alright, sorry about that. Okay, so I was explaining the for loop. So I was about explaining the for loop. So the for loop, the way the for loop works, right, is that it takes in a range of value and repeats whatever you want to do. So let's look at something simple. So let's say we want to print a list of numbers from 1 to 10, right? So I could do so the way it works is it uses the keyword for. I'm going to use something very descriptive. So for item in range, so range is another keyword. In range 1 to 10. Hold on, I've not explained range, so don't let me use range. Let me just see for item in Shopware. Remember, I've defined Shopware already. Print item. Then I run this. So can you see what is happening here? So what happens here is for item in Shopware. Shopware is a list, don't forget. So I'm telling Python that for every item that is inside of Shopware, that's the way this works. So it says for a certain item in a particular range, print the item. So what's happening here is for item in Shopware, print item. So what happens is this item will go through everything in Shopware one by one. from the first to the second to the third to the eighth items. That's how it's going to iterate. It's going to go through everything. We call it iteration. So iteration is like you are going through something in a orderly manner, like from in a linear manner. We are from the first. Okay, for instance, I have a okay for some of us that do visiting. Let's assume that on a street from the first house to the 10th house, you have people to go to. Normally, it would be wise to start from the first house, then you go to the second house, and move to the third house. So that way, you are iterating over. You are moving from one to the next, to the next, to the next. You're not jumping, you're not skipping, you're not doing it randomly. So that's the way this works. So look at the idea of that visiting. You are visiting some people. So you're seeing this as a list of houses, and you are going through them one after the other. That's what 34 is doing. 32, 36. You can see it's printing out in the same order. So that's how the for loop. So that's like just a simple thing about it. So there was something I wanted to do before, which I stopped. So I wanted to use the word range. So range is also another keyword, and the way it works is it takes in a start value. So for instance, maybe I want to start from just like a range from this number to this number to this. So it has a start value, a stop value. Now this stop value is not inclusive, right? So if I let me see if I can print range. It's not printing. How can I demonstrate? Okay, so what I could do is I could include this into a for loop, right? Okay, so I would say for I or for item in range, what do I want to do? Print item. So here you can see what happens. So let me restrict this to 5. So you can see what happens here. Start counting from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, but 5 is not included. So if you want 5 to be included, then you have to change 5 to 6. So I just add +1 to it. So the way it works is the last item is not usually included. The last item is not inclusive. Then there's a third option you can actually put here. So for instance, let's say you want it to go in, like you want it to jump. So from 0, you want to skip 1. So from 0 to 2, 2 to 4, right? You can add. So if I put 1 here by default, it's just 1. That's like the step, how you want it to move. You can, by default, it is 1. That's why when I didn't put anything, it still works. But if I want it to move faster, like skip some numbers, if I put 2, so you start counting from 0, and this is more like you want to get an even number. So let's say you want to get even number between 0 and 20, right? You can see what you have here: 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 to 18. Remember, 20 is not included. If you want to make it even, odd, all you have to do is just change the first one to 1, then to start counting from 1, then 1 to 3. So you see 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So it's now odd. What makes it odd? Because I just started from 1. So if I decide to change this variable, let's say I want to be counting 5, 5, right? It counts from 1. So the way is this, you can see it's like plus 1 plus 5, 6, 6 plus 5, 11, 11 plus 5, 16. So that's the way the range literally works. I think there are other parameters you can take, but let's just stick with this and enjoy ourselves basically. So that's how the range works. So I wanted to use it here, but I decided not to use it. Okay, so now let's so remember that we are still going to implement a grader for all the scores that Shopify has, right? So to do that, we can now use a for loop. Now, having described this for item in Shopify print items, I'm just going to take this and come here. Okay, so let's not forget that Shopware is this, right? So now remember that, okay, you already know what this is. This is already an indentation. That's what's happening here. So now rather than print item, we don't want to print item. Remember, item is the value itself. We want to now check if item is greater than, like if item follows that range. So all we need to do is just take all of this, right? Copy this, uh, copy this. Can use Ctrl C. Just very lazy. Paste it. Now be mindful of when you are pasting. Some things are going to happen. Some things like this. So if you're writing a for loop and you want to include anything inside this for loop, it has to be inside. This means that it is outside. So all I have to do is just take all of this. Remember this print statement too. It has to be under this. If I decide to run this like this, I should have a lot of troubles. Okay, maybe I should run it first. So you can see there's an indentation error, right? It's telling, of course you can't see the lines, right, but you can see where the error is. Print A. So I put a tab here, I run this again, I have syntax error for elif here. That's this part. So that means everything here. Okay, let me just do it first. So let me move this and run it. You see that now it's on print. So if I move print and run this, you can see now it's back to elif. So that means I should just do everything. So what I can do is select all of this and press tab, so it will shift everything together. So if I run this now, my code is still not complete, right? Exam score, what I have inside this place, they are not aware of what exam score is. So what I could now say is I could do something like, okay, replace, remember that this item is just a name, it can be any name, for just to iterate on what is in Shopware, and I have to use this item inside my list here. But since I have exam score, I can just take this exam score, rather copy. Okay, I think one thing I can do is, first of all, I can just say exam underscore score equals to item. So what this will do is that it will take this item, store it into exam score, and exam score will be evaluated, right? So if I run this now, so you can see the scores F, F, B, D, B, A, A, A. You can see it now. So, or the other way is to just take this exam score and name it here as, rename this item as exam score, and take this out. So what will happen here is that for exam score in Shopware, check if the exam score falls in this category. So if it falls in any of these categories, it's going to print all of this, right? To print it like this. So if I run this again now, you can see how it works. F, F, B, 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 D, B, A, A, A. So now I now have all of Shopware's results automatically, just at one click. But then I don't want it like this. I want to put it into a list, because remember, Shopware score is in a list. So having it in a list makes my life easy, right? So what do? I can create an empty list called Shopware results. So we have Shopware here, and remember you can have empty lists. So that will be Shopware underscore results. Sorry, and I'll have an empty list. So what I can now do is I can now add. So when this works, so let me explain this now. So for exam score in Shopware, it takes the first exam score, which is 34. It takes 34, run it through this, find out the grade, returns it as F. It takes the next exam score, which is 32. That's this change. After this has grown, then you come back to this place, take exam score 32, run it again, return the results, take 76, run it again. So like it does, that's why it's called a loop. It goes and goes until it repeats the same exact operation for every item in Shopware until the list has been exhausted. Now, after every iteration, right? So after if you pick 34 and you check, before you print, right? I want to now do something else. I want to let me see. So this is printing a. This is okay. These are just print statements actually. So I could add something to it and say, oh, okay. So if I'm going to use something we did when we're dealing with lists, which is append. So add an item to the last to the bottom. So for instance, look at this simple list. Baggage. Baggage is equals to dress and shoe. I'm just put shoe inside. So if you call baggage, you have this dress and shoe. So if I want to add one more item to the end, I can just say baggage dot append. Append what? What am I appending? Uh, wig. Apologies. Wig. So if you call baggage now, you find out that wig has been added to the end. If I run this again, somebody did this and reached out to me. So if I run this again and I check what is in baggage, find out wig has been added again. So if I run this multiple times, that's how much more this will keep expanding. You can see the number of times wig has been added. So I hope this makes sense to someone. So let me now go back to re-implement this, right? So copy this, bring it down here. Did copy it, copy. Control A C, Control A V. Okay, yeah. So this is it now. So I'm going to edit it. So what I want to do actually is after you print A. So that means if this is true, don't print A alone. Add A to the last item in Shopware's results. That will be Shopware underscore results dot append. What are you appending? A. Right? So with B2 I can have the same thing. So I'll just be very lazy right now and copy this and put B there. What's going on? Control, just sorry. Control C, Control B. So I change this to B. We come down here. I change this to C. I'll do the same for this, and I'll keep going that way. Sorry, D. E, F, prints. Now for this last one that says else, right? What happens? I should be able to return something. So return, maybe save not valid, right? That means the result is invalid. So let me say invalid results. Sorry, I'm inside string. Good. So I can say invalid results. I'm just going to take Shopware lists, delete this, and bring it to add it here so it's easier to read. On Shopware results. Sorry. Okay, so this is Shopware's results. Now, the way this is supposed to work, I'm going to try and read through it, then I'll now explain, right? Or I'll run it. So for every score in Shopware, or for each score, or for the first score in Shopware, try this. If exam score is greater than 80, what's the first score in Shopware? I think it's 32. So 32 is not greater than 80 and is not lesser than 100. then this will not work. Then you come to the next one. 32 greater than no, come to this place. 32 greater than 16, no. Comes to 32 greater than 15, no. Comes to this 32 greater than 14, no. Comes to this 32 greater than 0, yes. Is it within the range of 39? Yes. Print F and add F to Shockwave results. Then move to the next item on the exam score. It does this over again. You move to the next item. So you can see how iterative this is. So you can see now why it is called a loop. It goes round and round and round until there's nothing to go through again. So if I'm going to run this now, of course you can see that the result is still printing now because I still have my print statement there. But now if I go back and check this Shockwave results, right, if I check it down here, so I have Shockwave results, you can see that Shockwave results is now in a list, right? So we now have Shockwave, comma. So if I try to do this, you see, oh, what I have here is Shockwave's score, and what I have here is the equivalence of his results. So basically that's how you can do it. There are other ways you can try to improve it. You can improvise on this. You can do for instance now I don't know what's going on. So if you have, look at here where we have Shockwave results now, you know that if I run this again, if I run this exam score in Shockwave, there's going to be an issue. What is that issue? Let's look at it. So I've run this again, say it works, right? But the issue is now going to be here. So if I check Shockwave results, you find out that Shockwave results has now been duplicated. So F to A, another F to A, the same thing. So what is happening that if I run this a number of times, it will keep adding, and Shockwave results is not initializing. So what I can do is take this Shockwave results rather than put it, or the better thing to do is every time I want to run this, I have to run this first. So if I run this, then run this, and run this, you see that it remains the same. Or I could, rather than run those two things together, run it that way, I could just take this Shockwave results, I could just take this, copy it, and paste it before the for loop. So paste it here, so that anytime I run this, everything starts from beginning. So taking this, delete this, now running this now, and run Shockwave results. So you can see that no matter how many times I run this, I'm still going to get the same results. Nothing is going to change. It just keeps going to be the same thing, right? So so that's like an overview of how the for loop works. So you just basically use it to iterate over a known range. So when you know a particular range, you can use it to go over it. And if you are going to be repeating the same task, or if you are going to be able to be repeating a similar task, or maybe you need to check for something, for instance, now in a situation where we have 10 boys in the class and we have 15 girls, there are 25 in total. So I just want to maybe go through the number of boys, like check for every item. Are you a boy? If you're a boy, count boy. If you're a girl, count girl, and give me the sum, something like that. Okay, maybe I'll implement it so we can see it. That's a very good example too. But does anyone have any question? So I'm leaving room for questions because I understand that this might be a bit difficult to understand. So the point of these questions is to draw my attention to something that you're not understanding so we can explain it and everyone can get it, learn one or two things from it. So that's the point of me asking Martin Davos if we have questions. Okay. Okay. It looks like this class is very silent. Eunice. Ayobami, Abdurrashid, Kingsley. I hope you are here. Please let me see
It's
your ear.
actually raining here, and I'm not really.
You cannot hear me.
Yeah, it's raining here, so I can't really raining heavy. So I can't really hear you.
Oh,
Yeah, so
can the rest? Oh, wait, is it because it's raining or it's just
yes,
from
it's
my
very
hand?
loud. No, it's from my end. The rain is very loud, so I can't really hear you. It's
Okay.
messing up.
That's fine. I think you can just get an earpiece. That's what I use most of the time. Um, I hardly have my meetings because most of it, yeah, a lot of factors. I have my environment controlled when I have my earpiece with me. So that's just by the way. So Kingsley Abdurrashid.
I'm avoiding it for now, so I'm
Oh,
avoiding it for now. Because
okay. Oh, voila. All right. What about the rest? Ayabami, Abdurrashid, Kingsley. Um, do you have anything?
Okay, so for me, I missed the last class, so I'm missing some things here. So, but I'll try and cover up cover up with this as well, and ask questions later.
Okay, cool. All right, then. Okay, so I just want to do a one more example. So I've just done, I think, for one or two. So I'm just going to do another example regarding this for loop. So let's look at. I mentioned a class where you have boys and girls, right? So I'm just going to put it students. Now this time around, I'm going to have them in different forms. So like boy. So I'm going to have um this repeating itself. No, I should have it like this. Boy. Yeah. So I'm just going to have something like this. No. So just put this. Yeah. Then I'll just change a few of them to G just to mix it a bit. Um, okay, I think this should do. So I have no idea of how many boys and girls in this list, right? I don't even know how many are there in total, so I can just check its length, put the students in it, and run this. Then I'll get a list of students. Oh, exactly. Awesome. I have 15 students. So I have 15 of them. Now I want to check how many boys and how many girls. What do I do? So before I start to write my full code, it's advisable you first of all think about it. How do you want to go about it? How do you want to approach it? Whatever problem you have, you don't just go ahead and start writing. It's a bad practice, a bad idea. Although you might get it done, but you can't scale that way when you have bigger things to do. Basically, I'm teaching us for like introduction to programming. So you might get to use it, you might not get to use it. But the point is you have the knowledge. And if you're faced and there's a need to use it in your data analysis journey or your data journey, or eventually you even decide to leave data and go into something you think is fun and you have to write code, you this can stand for you. So that's why I'm just giving all of these tips. So now to write this, I would first of all need to be able to check. So if I see a single item like this, I need to check if it's boy, if it's a boy or a girl. So to that, I can write a simple if statement, right? To say, oh, if if the item, right? So let's do something like item equals to b, right? In string. So I could do an if statement. Say if item equals to b, right? A colon, enter. what do you want to do? Print, just tell me, print boy. Print, oh, sorry. Print this is a boy. And else, oh no, don't say else. You want to check if the item is a girl, because we are not assuming, if we are assuming that it is either a boy or a girl, then we can just do, okay, else print this is a girl, right? So if you run this, you are getting this is a boy. If I change item to C, I'll get this is a girl, although it's not a girl. And if I put G, yes, I'll still get this is a girl, which is why I didn't want to write that. So I wanted to write it in a way that if I put anything aside B or G, it tells me something else. So that's where an elif comes in. So I could just put this elif, right? Elif, that's else if the item is a girl, then print this is a girl. And else, now if it does not fall in these two category, print item must be a girl or a boy. I hope you are getting it. Actually, that's a goal. So this is a girl. G is coming out as this is a girl. B is coming out as this is a boy. And if you put in something else that is not proper, F is coming out. Item must be a girl or a boy. Instead of saying item, let me say student. Students. Yeah. So this is now a simple, just a simple item to check, right? For one statement. Now we want to check for multiple statements. What do we do? All we have to do is include this function, this thing that we have written, into a loop. As simple as that. So all you have to do is now say, oh, write a for loop that says for item, or let me use index, for index in students, you want to check this, right? So if I paste this, of course, remember that there's going to be errors. So you press tab. So I select and highlighted and press tab to adjust it. Although the first one did not cut, I will just erase because of indentation actually. So now after doing this, so for index in students, if item, we have our issue already. Normally it should be, so I'll change the other ones. I changed the examples, but here I'm just going to change this one instead, just to let you know that it is can be changed. So for index in students, so if index is B, print this. If index is G, do this. Else, do this. Right? So I'm just going to run this now, and you see, oh, this is a boy, this is a girl, this is a boy, this is a girl, this is a boy, this is a girl. Right? So this simple one that I've done now is just to implement. Remember, I wanted to count how many boy or girl, right? So I could have another variable right here that says, oh, boys equals to 0, then girls equals to 0. So I'm setting boys and girls to 0 because I don't, originally if you are starting a count, it will be from 0, and I want to increase it. So if index is equals to B, that means it's a boy. Now don't just tell us that it's a boy, add so to boys you are going to this is okay, I've not done this yet, but please just follow along. So program is a bit more of, it's not just about logic, it's about logic and mathematics. So I'm about to do something here. So this is boys plus index, no, boys plus 1. So what I'm doing here in this line of code I'm saying that take the former value of boys, which is what? 0. Add it to 1. That's what 1 plus 0. And store it inside boys again. So it's like say 1 plus 0 is 1. Store it inside boys. So these boys will now be 1. Right? If you go through it again, the value of boys is no longer 0. It's now 1. 1 plus 1 will be 2. 2 will be stored into boys now. So it's just like you are changing the values of boy, like it's just increasing. So like a count basically. So if this executes, boys will increase by 1. If this executes, then we should increase girls by what? 1. So we just say girls plus 1, and you keep going like that and to the end. And now if I run this now, so for every time this gets executed, boys gets added by 1. For every time this executed, for every time this is executed, girls is increased by 1, right? And so if I use shift enter now, I'm guessing boys is not defined. What is going on? Did I not run the first one up? Oh, see, I did run this. There's nothing inside. That means this has not been run. That means boys. Computer doesn't understand what boys is. So I run this now. Then I'll come back and run this. So you can now see that everything still works the same, right? But if you now come back and check, oh, what is in boys and what is in girls. So let's say boys. You can see boys is 9, and girls is how many? Girls is 6, and that makes sense. 9 plus 6 is 15. So to make this clean, I can just take away my prints, right? What's going on? So I'm going to rewrite this now. So remember now, okay, let me just keep this first here. So now if you come back to this place now and you run the same code again, we are going to have the issues that we had earlier. That if you check boys, you find out that boys is now 18. So because this value has been changed, so what was I supposed to do? All I have to do is take this value and include it into my code, that same line. So I'm just going to do it here and put it here. So before this runs, right? Sorry. Before this runs, this will run first, then this will run. So every time I run this will first of all run. It will first of all set boys and girls to 0 before going ahead. So if you run this now, you find out that although we are supposed to print boy and girl, so at the end of it, I can say at the later part of this code down here, outside of this loop. Remember, anything inside this indentation is inside this loop, and I don't want to put what I want to write inside this loop, so I'll put it outside and set the print in quotes the number of boys is, then you can put outside here boys. I think with the comma though, yes, I think a comma should work. Boys, then I can copy this and just copy my way through. Girls, boys, girls, and run this. Okay, so I think it's coming up. Hold on. Okay, it works, but because I have the print statement, you can see it has clouded everything. So I don't really need to be printing this is a boy, this is a girl. It's not like I'm trying to identify someone. So I can just take out all the prints. Okay, I can comment it. Don't think I want to use this comments like this. Just put a comment to it here. Put a comment to it here. And put a comment to this. And run this now. Okay, so it's saying expected the number of boys is oh, so there needs to be a statement inside this place. I'm just going to leave this like this. So actually what happened here is the number of boys is boys, right? So it's seeing this statement, but the actual thing that was affected was this line. So what Python, the way it treats this is like the line before the error code, right? So that was what happened. So if I run this now, I can see it works. So the number of boys is 9 and the number of girls is 6. So you can see how clean this is, how smooth, how we have removed all the unnecessary things that we actually had, and now we have just simplified it. So yeah, also I think we should always save our work as we go. And I just noticed something now. This was showing Sunday last week. At least it was not, I don't know if it was saving. I think it should. It's always saving an interval. So I check it. Yeah, it's always saving an interval. So it's always best to do avoid stories that touches the heart. So that's basically how you can now go about it. So there are many more things you can implement, like simple how should I call it, just simple stuff, simple things that you can just think of and how you can implement it. I think that's basically what I'll be wrapping the assignment around, to cover for all of these things. So basically, yeah, so I think we can move on to the other thing we want to do. So we have discussed the for loop. So the way it works again is that it takes in a range of number. You need a range of values, a known range of values to operate on, and while you operate on those things, you have an index that an item, it just goes keep going around. So you have a function or you have something you want to do, and it is in a list, or it can even be a dictionary, it can be a tuple. It doesn't have to be a list actually. It just has to be like a range of things. It doesn't have to be something. So if from there you can now put it in a for loop and iterate over it, and it will perform that singular thing multiple times and the multiple of your range of values. So that's the way it actually is supposed to work. Now let's move on to the second type of loop. So this one is called a while loop. So you can guess what it actually does or how it works. So it's still a loop, but this one actually uses the word while. So like while something is true, for instance, so let's take this away from programming a bit. Let's step out. Let's think outside of programming. Let's do the real world. So let's imagine okay, for instance, it's day. We have day and night. So while it is still day, I'm going to keep working while it is still day. So that simply means one thing. So far it is day, I'm going to have to work, and the minute it is no longer day, I have to stop working. So while it is raining, I'm going to keep using the umbrella. It means that while the rain is still falling, I'm not going to stop using the umbrella. I'll only stop using the umbrella when the rain stops. So in this situation now, I have a while, and if you notice, the only thing that happens is while that thing is true, keep doing that thing you are doing. While it is no longer true, then stop doing it. Remember with the for loop takes just a range of values, like, oh, repeat this same task for everything here. But with the while loop, it states that, oh, while this thing is true, keep doing it. The minute is no longer true, stop. So that's the idea behind using a while loop, right? Now, how does it work? Because remember that it is a loop. That means it has to keep doing that particular thing that you actually wanted to do. And while it is no longer true, you continue, you stop. So let's look at a very simple example. So let's say we want to print out the numbers, a list of numbers from 1 to 10, right? So you are going to need we want to use a while loop. Remember, we don't know the range, we just know we want to print 1 to 10. So what we can now do is can have a while statement that says while. I remember that it uses a condition, so a condition has to be true. So we could say while item is less than 10, and if I'm going to use item here in using a while loop, I have to start with it in an actual variable. So let's say item is 0. Remember, I want to start printing from 0, so item is 0. So while item is less than 10, right, 0 is currently less than 10, so this will work. What do I want to do? Print item. Now if I leave it like this, there's an issue, because while item is less than 10 already, 0 is less than 10, print item, this will keep printing 0, because 0 will continue to be lesser than 10, and this can run for ever. So to demonstrate that, I'm going to try it now and run, so you can see what is going on here. It keeps printing. This 0 you are seeing is increasing. If you look at my bar here, you find out that this thing is just okay. Let me stop it because my stem is going to get hot now. So I've clicked this button. This is the button I can use to stop it. I think I'm have to double click it. Okay, I think it has stopped. Yes, that stopped. So you look at it now, you see I'm actually scrolling now, and all you are seeing is what? 0 0 0. If I come down here, you can see it's because I stopped it with this. That's why you have this. But if you look at the item, the last item is still 0. So now why did that happen? So that happened because there was no way to control the loop. There was no way to put an end to it. So it just kept on running and running and running and running. So how do I do that? I can now come down here and now say, oh, item equals to item plus 1. What does this mean? I've explained it before, but I'm going to explain it again. So it means that the current value in item, add it to 1 and store it back inside item. So it takes this item, so it's more like you are collecting food. That's a very good one that came to my head now. So you went to a party and they give you food to eat, and you have not finished the food, and they're like, there's more. What do? And you want more. You go there, you take the one you have, they add to it, but it's still inside that same plate. It's still your own plate, right? So it still belongs to you. So but this time around, when you're now going back to your seat, you are going back with added food. So if the weight of the food that you had initially was 10 kg, I don't know what's 10 kgs. Oh, 10 kg, guys, that's too much. So let's say the weight of the food you have is like 10 grams, right? By the time you are going back to collect more food, it's no longer 10 grams, it's like 15 grams. So it has changed, the value has changed, but the variable is still there. If we now say, okay, there's more, it's like this thing is surplus, so and you still want, you go back with that same plate of yours, collect more inside. Let's say you added 5 grams to it, that's now 20 grams. It's still that same plate that you are using. So that way you're kind of updating the value, you're updating your plates. Should I say updating, or you're upgrading it? Whatever. So basically it's more like you're updating the value, right? So here saying item plus 1 and store it back in item. Now it means that, so let's do it. So 0 0 is less than 10, you print 0, right? Now what happens is 0 plus 1 is 1. So it goes back to this place, it checks, is 1 less than 10? No. Yes, it does it again. 1 plus 1, 2, this becomes 2. So you can see that way item is increasing. So and it's going to get to a point where it is no longer, right? If you get to 10, 10 is not less than 10. That's not true. So this will not run. So perhaps if you run this, right, you can expect to have 0 to what, 9, because the last item is 10 and 10 is not less than 10. If you want 10 to be here, then you probably have to add plus 1 to this. Yeah, I could just do this. This is not, it's not a good way, although, or I could just take this to 11, knowing that 11 is not inclusive. Or rather still, I could say less than or equals to 10, and I run this. So you see you have 0 to 10 that way. So that's just how to go about it. So that's the simple way it works. So in for loop uses a range of values, and while loop uses a conditional. So remember we did conditional last week. So conditional, it checks for that condition. If it's not true, it doesn't work at all. If it is true, it works. So for instance, now if I decide to change this to greater than, this will not run at all because it's starting from 0. 0 greater than or equals to 10. No, this will not bother working. But if it is true, then that will be the only condition while it will work. So I could also say okay, print number from 10 to 1 or 10 to 0. It will be the same implementation, but remember I'm starting from 10. So I would have to say my item equals to 10. Then while 10, right? So I could say while item is lesser or equals to 0. So the minute item become less than or equals to 0, don't run this. So what I want to do next is print what item. But you cannot just do this. I have to add a condition to. I have to remember that I have to keep doing something to item. So for item, I can now decrease it because remember I want to decrease it. So I'll say equals to item minus 1. So if I run this now, this is not running at all. It's not even running. So is 10 less than or equals to 0? No, actually 10 is not less than or equals to 0. So what I'm supposed to use here is greater than. So while 10 is greater than 0, is this true? Yes, 10 is greater than or equals to 0. No, 10 is greater than 0. It runs. 10 is greater than 9, it works. 10 is greater than 8, it works. 7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 1 is greater than 0, it works. 0 is greater than 0, it works. Or equals to 0, it works. Or minus 1 is not greater than 0. So that's when this will terminate. So you can say 10 to 0. And if you want to go into minus, of course, sure you can. You can say if I put minus 7, right, and I'm starting from like 5, and I run this, you can see what happens. It goes into the negative. So far this is true. So far what you set here is valid. It's going to go like that, right? So that's basically how it will work actually. So if you now want to implement other stores, for instance, now I think I should I should do the exam. Should I? Or should I give us as an assignment? Should think about it. Should crack our head around it. So I'm thinking so I've done a few examples with the for loop. So I'm looking at this scenario where you are going to replicate what I have in the for loop with a while loop. Let me see, 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 let me see. Okay, I'm going to do one, then you replicate the other one. So I'm going to take these boys. Should I use these boys? Should I use these boys? Okay. Sorry. So let me use the example I did with this, where I used a for loop. So I just want to demonstrate that you can use a for loop and while loop interchangeably, although there are some instances where a for loop is better when you know the range, and a while loop is better when there's a condition attached, but they can be used interchangeably actually. So I want to replicate this with a while loop. So I think after that we can round off. So this is the function. I should get students close by. Students is so far away. Copy, create a new one up here. I'm going to clean all of this up. So I just want to see what I implemented. Okay, so this is student here. Now we want to use a while loop, so I'm just going to comment all of this. So what's a while loop? A while loop is like, it's supposed to use a condition, right? I already have what I want to do, which is this this one. Copy. Hold on, I have to clean this. I don't think I need this. So I'm just taking out the print statements, right? Just to make it cleaner. Then adjust this one to the back. So to take it back is shift tab. Those had normally to push it forward to be tab, but to take it backward to be shift tab. So you can see everything is all set now. So what I want to now do is I want to iterate through these lists, right? So to do that, to use a while loop, I would need, a while loop has a counter. So the counter that I mentioned is just this item. So this item is serving as the counter. Is what is counting that, oh, okay, you are keep going, you are going and going and going, and at this point, so the while loop is the counter to terminate, right? So as a terminator, anyways. So I'm going to need that here. So if I'm going to write a while loop, I'll need a counter that is countering through this. So remember there are 15 items here, so I can use the length of this. So saying, oh, get me the length of students, then I iterate through the length, right? So I could say my counter would be, so I can just call it counter, there should not be any issues. So counter will be the length of students, which is what, 15, and 15 start from 0. Well, sorry, this is going to start from, it's just going to be 15, right? So I will need to write a while loop. Let me give space. So while I'm going to start counting from 0 because now I want to iterate from here. So this is going to be 0. So while let me see. Okay, I'm going to need another counter. So more of like an index. Let me call it index. Index is 0. So index will start counting from 0. So while index is lesser than counter. So the way this will go is 0 is less than counter. So index is the one that will be going through B, G, B, G, B, G, like keep going like that. And it will keep going one by one. So while index is 0, 0 is less than counter. Of course, I have to keep increasing index. Index equals to index plus 1. Yeah, I want to keep increasing it by 1. Then I will now check students. and index. So you remember how to access a list, right? Where you use the lists and in square brackets the index you want to access. That's the way this works. So we're going through the index one after the other. So that's what this is supposed to do. Now I want to now store this index into, let's say, item. So what I'm now going to be doing is I'm going to be checking through item. So yeah, I have index, so I'll just change all of this to item. So it's going to be item. So you're checking your item equals to student index. That's the first one. That's B. So is item greater is equals to B? If yes, do this. If no, if else, if it's G, do this. If else, do this. So I would now take this, right, cut it and put it here and do what I've been doing to this tab, set it in place and put this here. So I can now clean this off. Good. So now let me explain this from the beginning again. So we have boys and girls initialized to 0. Remember, we want to count the number of boys and girls in this students in this list, right? Students list. We have a counter that's that has a length of students. Or for instance, let me see. Should I name this a counter? Let me name it just number of students or total students. Control C, Control V. Yeah, so just name it total students. Total students is 15. Then index of 0, right? So you start counting from 0. And 0, remember now that 0 to 15. If you count 0 to 15, that's 16 variables. But if you count 0 to 15 starting from 0 and you stop at 14, that's 15. If you look at the index here, you have is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So that's 0 to 14, which is why I'm using a less than here and not less than equals to. So if I was using less than or equals to, this would get to 15. And of course, that would be an error. That would be very tragic. So I think I'll try that so you can see it. Because you should demonstrate things too. You should find out, oh, is this really true? Am I just assuming? So then you check item equals to students index. So the index here, that's the actual number of this 0. It checks and gets the index of 0 in students and store it in item, then checks true. And at the end of the day, I think we should have a print statement. So this is just like increasing index by 1, more like increments. So at the end of the day, I should have print boys total number of boys in the class is boys, then print total number of girls in the class is what is girls. So fingers crossed. Yeah, so you can see we have 9 and we have 6. So you can see how eventually this turned out to work. So it works fine, right? And I mentioned there are some instances. So for instance, if I put equals to here, of course I'm getting an error. I'm getting index error, list index out of range. That means this is trying to access an item that is not in the range. Say 15, accessing student and student index 15 is not in the range. There's no value assigned to it. That's why we are getting list index out of range, basically. So there's nothing in there. So I can just as well switch this back. Although it can be lesser, but you will have an accurate result. Okay. So I think I would take any questions now. Or maybe hold on. Okay, let me just do a recap of all the things that we did so we can take questions. So now going through this over again. So we started from the for loop, right? How the for loop basically work, the operations, how it's, so like I said, it's just from the idea. Loops means that it goes over something over and over and again. That's all. Just go over it, iterate over it. That's just the point of a loop. You have something you want to iterate, a list, a dictionary, a tuple, right? Okay, real quick, I can just edit this into a tuple. All I have to do is just change this. If I run this now, see, still the same thing, still gives me my results. It's 5, it is, it's 7. That means I just run it now, so I'm still getting my results. So a tuple, a list, if you want to do it against the dictionary, you have to get the keys and get the value separately. Well, so yeah, that's basically, so a loop is basically anything you're going over something, you're doing the same operation for multiple things, right? Just faster rather than doing manually. That's what the computer is meant for, to accelerate tasks. Then we now have an implementation of a for loop, right? That prints results. You just basically just print results. This does not add anything. And this one particularly adds the results into another list that we can now see the results in and use it. So in a situation where you have to do this for multiple people, right, you can just implement something like, maybe, okay, create a list, put the name of the person there, so that when the list is being created, you know that, oh, this one, this is his course. You can easily just search for it if you need to search, and if you need to integrate it into another place, it's easier done that way, right? So you can just write something like, okay, when you are done with whatever it is, send it to the necessary place or the appropriate quarters, something like that. Then so I think here we're just trying to demonstrate using a loop over a list of students, checking if they are a boy or a girl. So we have a conditional, and if else, if else, yes, I don't know, it's still if else. You can call it elif, whichever works for you. So you have this going through an item, just a single item, right? And it returns, you print out the results. So this way you can be sure that, oh, this works. Then you now go ahead to do your for loop. If you start creating your for loop without doing this, if there's an issue, you don't know how best to track it, right? That's the concept of building things little by little. I built this, I test it, it works, okay. I build another one, I test it, it works, okay, good. If I bring the two together and I test it and it's not working, then I know that, oh, it's probably the way I brought it together. But if I didn't build it separately and tested, if I just brought everything together and start building it and it's not working, it will be very hard to troubleshoot. So this does not relate to just programming, it relates to everything, I think. So we went on to create a for loop that checks, oh, given the students, checks the item in the students, do something like this. So you can see with this, you don't need to do anything, you just check the item in the students straight up, right? Then when we finished and we had boys and girls, then we have something like this, right? So this one was just to we had a natural print statement and boys and girls initializing to 0 first. Then we have a while loop, and the while loop works with conditions. It checks if a condition is true, it will keep running the operations. That was what happened here. We had an issue where this was where the terminator was not defined, right? And it kept on running forever. So yeah, so that was it, and we tried to implement something bigger. So we tried to implement what we did with the for loop, right? But we didn't do the grade, and that was intentional. So I believe it's something we can just use to get around 30 and work on it, right? So another thing I want to mention, that So in this situation where you can see here we use length of students. We have to access the students by index, right? The same is also applicable in the case of the for loop. So I'm just going to go back there. So this is a for loop, right? So you have index and students. Now this index is actually the index of a student. Like let me put it here. Students. I think it's small letter S. Yeah. So you can see students now. This index in students is the actual item, not the index. Although if you want to use the index value, right? So using, I should have this under there. I should have to go far. Let me put it under here. So using index value to access students. So what I'm going to now do is I'm going to replicate this, but this time around I'll be using index value rather than accessing this directly. So what I could do here is I could have a range of numbers from 0, my index starts from 0 to, so where I want to stop is I want to stop in the actual length of students. So remember that let me even put it here. Let's say length of students. Is this 0? Yes, this is 0. Length of students equals to what? Length of actual students. So that means inside here I'll just have to use length of students. Yeah, so I'll just have to have it like this. So this checks, give me the length of student, which is 15, and stores it here. And replacing it 15 here, we have that this will be range from 0 to 15. Remember, 15 is not inclusive, right? So if I now do this now, so that means this index is accessing, this index is now from 0 to 15. So what I'm now going to do is, rather than have index, remember that I want to have the actual value. So I'm going to have here, rather than have index, I have students. Is this students? Yes. So this will do index of students. So the index here is 0. Index 0 of students will be what? That should be 1. Sorry, B. That's the first one anyway. So to give you the first index, and to do this, and the same thing here. So if I should, I think I should take this out. So if I should run this, I'm still going to have the same exact thing I have. So this one is using indexes, and this one is using, the first one is using the actual value, like you're accessing it directly. It's just that sometimes you might not be able to access directly, sometimes you might need to access directly. So just sometimes there are different variations anyways. So yeah, so that's what I just wanted to chip in regarding the for loop. I think I've talked about the while loop, how it works with conditions, right? It's just basically conditions. All you have to do is set up your condition and make sure that you don't forget that you have a terminator. This is the condition. The first one is as important as this last one, because this last one is the one that makes sure that your code is going to stop working and stop running at some point. If it's not there, it runs forever. So I think, yeah, that's pretty it for today from my head.